Tonight, this is all that's left of a landmark building on Grand Rapids' southeast side.
Crews have finished demolishing the Kindle Furniture Building, which was devastated when fire ripped through it last spring. The landmark building was one of many destroyed by fires caused by crews working inside with tools that throw sparks.
The city of Grand Rapids has a program designed to prevent these kinds of fires, in part by punishing the workers who spark them. It is a program the city started after a Target8 investigation years ago. And Henry Erb wanted to know if the city is enforcing its own ordinance.
It's a story Target8 investigators have been chasing for nearly a decade after a guy using a cutting torch to remove an old printing press from the Michigan Litho building at Fulton and Carlton burned the place down.
But apparently some oil caught a fire and got dripped down through the floor into the basement and started burning down there. I noticed fire coming up through the cracks in the floor.
The guy's boss told us he didn't know anything about state safety rules that, if followed, might have prevented the destruction. And the city of Grand Rapids had no prevention program. But within a few years that changed, and these pages appeared on the fire department website. The city now had its own hot work program, a permit system, and a set of safety requirements. It requires anybody using fire for cutting or welding to get a permit, get an inspection, and follow common sense safety precautions.
Well, I think the program has been pretty effective when we're dealing with contractors that are used to working in the city.
But big buildings are still burning down because some people are ignoring the rules. In March 2008, fire destroyed this industrial building on the southeast side. Two guys using a cutting torch trying to remove steel and copper pipes. Even a neighborhood businessman thought it was a bad idea.
I told them this morning not to bring torches into a 100-year-old building. It's all wood inside, all very old wood. And they thought they could get away with it, so 4 hours later, we got a nice fire.
They had no hot work permit, so there was no safety inspection that would have told them what precautions to take. The crew violated the city ordinance, but walked away from responsibility. They could have gotten 90 days in jail and a $500 fine, but the city never charged them. When the landmark Kindle Furniture Building burned last summer, firefighters were again put at risk, and the city lost another historic structure.
It's kind of sad leaving this place, but now it's even sadder seeing it burn.
The investigation found the Chicago-based crew took some safety precautions and, in fact, had put out a fire a few days earlier. But they did not have a hot work permit, so there was no prior fire safety inspection. And they did not have anyone on fire watch, as the city requires, somebody to keep an eye on where the sparks are going. The operator said because they used a saw and not a torch, they figured they didn't need one. Again, the city chose not to prosecute. In fact, the city has never prosecuted anyone for ignoring hot work procedures. Why hasn't the city prosecuted people?
Actually, I think that, during the investigations, we found that these are really not anything that's been malicious or malice in any form, that it was truly somebody who was uneducated.
The chief says she hopes her department could educate people before getting to the point of prosecution. Since people with torches continue to ignore the code, we asked the chief if actually using the penalties in the law might be a better deterrent.
Well, I'm not saying that prosecuting somebody wouldn't get somebody's attention. I think this is a decision that the city collectively with the fire department has to make that decision.
If the ordinances aren't enforced, then the problem that the ordinance sought to address continues.
Jack Hoffman is an attorney who has long been active in trying to preserve and reuse historic buildings. Some of the biggest torch-caused fires have destroyed old buildings that were being prepped for renovation.
It's a significant problem. We've lost many good buildings that could have had a valuable reuse.
The fire chief says the city is reviewing all of its fees and permits, and whether or not to enforce the hot work ordinance is going to be part of that discussion. In Grand Rapids, I'm Target8 investigator Henry Erb.